All right. Hello and welcome, everyone. So today we're doing another of the Builds Refreshes 2022, and today we are talking about Revenant. Now, Revenant has gotten markedly worse as of the Angels of the Zariman update, and that is because the new eximus pose a great threat to his ability to defend himself, that being his Mesmer skin. Mesmer skin has a limited number of charges that you can see in the bottom right, and because eximus are not affected by the crowd control part of his 2, whenever they would shoot him and then get stunned, they don't get stunned and can instead just continue to shoot him, making Mesmer skin not a great defensive option. However, it is still enough of a defensive option, especially considering you can just use good guns and also the ability to kind of get out of jail free with his 3. And he does technically have a unique thing going for him in the form of the combination between his 1 and his 3, which is that when you enthrall enemies, which, by the way, the eximus units that are the big threat to you are immune to this ability until you remove their overguard, making this ability basically totally useless against them. And then you combine it with Reeve, you can drain up to 100% of health and shields from enemies that you pass through. With that being said, before we even show the build, Reeve is a lie. This ability and what it says is wrong. It does not give you the full information on, understanding what this ability is actually doing. The base number for the health drain and drain in general is actually 8%. What it shows you is 40%. And that's wrong. The reason it shows you 40% is unknown to me, but that number is only for enemies that are enthralled. If this ability was actually that 40% base, just with nothing else, like no need to enthrall or do anything else with it, this ability would be absolutely insane and one of the best abilities ever in the entirety of the game. But it does not do what it says. With that, though, you can still build around it. And for that, we have this. So, this build basically just focuses on trying to be as comfortable as possible as Revenant. So, we have Molt Augmented, which is going to give us the other... we need 51%. This will give us 60. This will give us 60% power strength whenever we kill our first 250 enemies, which at the beginning of any mission is not going to be hard, and it's not going to be relevant ever to do the 100% drain before you have this fully stacked up, because it's just going to be faster to kill enemies by shooting them at that point. But if you are planning to run into enemies where doing 100% drain is going to matter, this is going to get you there. And also, the 60% strength is quite nice because it's going to give us more charges of Mesmer skin, up to, I believe, 15 whenever this is fully done up. On top of that, we are at max efficiency, so all of our abilities are very cheap, and with the good amount of strength that we are running, I have subsumed Roar over his 4. You can build around his 4, but there is a lot better low-level clear that can just ignore line of sight and is just better in general. So I really usually wouldn't recommend the low-level clear for his 4 or even the mid-level clear for his 4 because better things just exist. Of course, the Protea video kind of just happened. You could just use her. But anyway, we also need a good chunk of duration to make it so that when we are dashing with Reeve, we're getting some good distance. This moves at about 25 meters per second of duration that you have, so almost 2 seconds is going to take us quite far. And spamming this can be used for some movement, but is usually unnecessary, but is nice, especially if you happen to be using Revenant out in some open worlds or whatnot. And we also are using stretch to kind of bolster up the negative from narrow-minded so that this is wide enough to be useful. I would like it to be at least at about 5, otherwise it feels way, way too small. And if his cast times were not so abysmally terrible, that mainly being in reference to Mesmer skin, it would have been nice to be able to justify using Augur Reach instead of Natural Talent, but you really, really want the casting time. If you would like to invest more Forma in him, which I absolutely do not, Cunning Drift would definitely be my pick up here, as whenever you're under the effects of his 2, you are immune to the knockdowns and such, so you do not need to worry about explosive weapon usage on Revenant. So the extra range, I think personally, would make it more comfortable to use Revenant, especially if you're planning to get large crowds of enemies affected by his one or whatnot. So yeah, that's pretty much what's up. Not anything too crazy here. Just some simple stuff, simple build. You really don't need Energize because you're on the max efficiency, so you could put this in for, like, you know, any number of melee arcanes or pistolier or whatever goofy stuff you want to combine with Revenant. It's pretty open. Energize is definitely not needed, but is, of course, always helpful. So yeah, with that, my main advice is that you should equip a good gun on him, like the Phantasma, as it's going to kill faster than his abilities will. And you're going to want, well, at least for quite a long time and quite a lot of levels. So you're going to want that at least at the start of pretty much every mission. That being said, the level 190 enemies are really not going to be much of a threat to him. Like, it's really not going to be a big deal at all, especially not with our Roar damage buff. And we can just throw our Enthrall out here. And enthrall some dudes and just kill them, basically. We're obviously not at that, like, top level strength, but just in general, it's more than plenty. And of course, the distraction from his one does help with the charges that are on his two not being depleted too fast. You can just throw this out there. Yeah, pretty much that's what's up. I will say there are a number of situations where I find that his one just does not want to be cast, even though you are, you know, you can just cast it. There's not, like, insane restrictions on it, but sometimes it just doesn't want you to. It's also got, like, not great targeting. Oh yeah, this enemy is under the effects of Overguard and all that. It just makes it kind of a huge mess to kill enemies with him, and it's more of a pain than it's worth to not just use a weapon that's going to kill all these enemies. And, like, ghost moding around, like, just Danny Phantoming these enemies is pretty inefficient compared to just shooting them, if I'm honest, in the vast majority of cases, especially once you have your Merciless Arcanes built up, as that is just going to absolutely melt these enemies. But yeah, that's Revenant. Enjoy the Steel Path run. He's okay. I would definitely, you know, prefer to be using Nyx and such. I think in pretty much all content, interestingly, and Nyx isn't even really one of my favorites. But yeah, that's Revenant. Like I said, enjoy the Steel Path run, and I will see you tomorrow. Okay, now for the Steel Path run. Oh, on solo, of course. There we go. Although, I'll be honest, I really would like to... How do I put this? What's the right phrasing for this? Not do this. Because it's Revenant. Warframe I don't like very much. 100%. I don't know if you could tell from the earlier part of the video. Not a fan. Not a fan. He's not a guy I like. He's pretty mid. And I don't like his defense, and I don't like that he has to run natural talent to have an okay at best cast time, and so on and so forth. Two already ran out. Sign of a great defense. What an amazing thing. Luckily, his defense is 100% damage removal and also a stun. So against pretty much anything, it is going to be at least okay. We're just going to have to recast it a lot and generally monitor it and have a bad time. Well, I say have a bad time, but I am, of course, using the Phantasma, which is automatically a good time. In general, it's, I would say, not going to be worth it to ever use his 3 outside of, like, escaping from situations, or life support on maybe the Acolyte. I guess. Well, no, I don't think the Acolyte's actually affected by the 1. It's actually been a while. This is my first test run with him. I don't think the Acolytes are affected by his 1, though. I guess we'll find out, huh? I think you cannot put the 1 on them, therefore the 1-3 combo is bad. Also, just in general, TLDR for Revenant, the 1 and the 3 combo is adorable, but honestly not as good as Nyx. But you watch the rest of the video, right? That's why. You know. You get it. Activating it will buy you more time. Yeah, even though Nyx is like, you know, you move slower, I do consider her to generally be better. Mostly because, like, she fits into more of, like, what the actual meta is in Warframe right now, which is, like, not giving a fuck. And especially since the eximus changes, Revenant has to give way more of a fuck than he did before. And having to give a fuck is a negative attribute of a Warframe for most of the player base, at the very least. This is a very suboptimal area to be. So we're gonna leave. This is better. Good thing they're following me.
Prepare for
love having punched her on this weapon. Anyway, you know, Revenant is just doing Revenant things. And that's going okay. Hello. At least his 2 works on, like, most enemies, right? He's got that. There's something to be said about an ability that works on a lot of enemies, as opposed to, you know, like, Nezha's 3, which works on all enemies. Also, Nezha could be using Roar and... But, yeah, you know. I'm sure it's fine, right? Obviously, it's fine. I will say it's at least nice that you get shields back whenever you hit enemies that do have shields with your 2, because in some situations that's actually quite useful. Murder, murder, murder. We love the Phantasma. Makes life as a frame that's not so great much easier. Yeah, it's pretty interesting that there's like a number of Warframes that like are a weapons platform, right? Where their main purpose is that they make the gun go better. But like, in most cases, you can find a gun that just does the mission like without that additional input. You know what I mean? Where's that acolyte at? We're almost at 5. Come on now. I want to remember if you are vulnerable to the 1 or not.
Capsule is now available.
Oops. I remember, I mean gain the knowledge, but again. Extra 50, or not 50, but 60. The extra 60% strength from Augmented is really nice. Are you vulnerable to this? Oh, no, right. I have to wait for the cooldown to happen. All right, well. Come on, come on, come on. 4 seconds, 4 seconds. Come on. Right, you can't recast this for some godforsaken reason. It does work on them. Anyway, die then. But they do not take the enhanced percentage damage. They still take a good chunk, though, so it's mediocre at best. All right. Well, I guess I found out why I didn't remember. It's because the answer is kind of no. Because he definitely had the 1 effect on him, but the result was not that he takes the extra percentage damage, it was just that he doesn't take the extra percent. Cool. And by cool, I mean no, that's not cool at all. It's really unfortunate for Revenant that his 3 is like a complete lie, and like doesn't really tell you what it does in-game. Because, like, on paper, it looks, like, absolutely insane. Like, oh, just drain 40% of their health and shields, and it doesn't care about armor? That's wild style, man. But, like, in actuality, it's like, haha, no. The hidden number is that we don't do any of that shit unless they have your 1 on them. And it's like, oh, well, it's unfortunate that the 1 is terrible. It's horrible and limited. It's really unfortunate. No, that's not the attributes that I want for any ability, is to be horrible and limited. the only kind of limited I want is in Magic the Gathering. And even there, could go without it pretty easily. Just cleaning up. Hey, if you don't have a Phantasma, just so you're aware, this weapon is available super early in the game. And it is not hard to make it do this. It's pretty easy, actually. One of the things I considered for the free-to-play tour, actually, it's available so early. Speaking of the free-to-play through, if anyone's interested, we should be starting up another free-to-play through before the end of the year. Because that is absolutely looming. But people really like the free-to-play throughs, and I like doing them, so they will continue. Especially with some of the stuff that they've been doing this year, where they're trying to make it like, you know, a faster and better path to getting to the new war. I think it'll be really interesting to do the free-to-play through and like have input on how those changes have made things like better. Or worse, although I wouldn't say any of the changes I've seen so far are like a negative thing. It seems like they're pretty much all on the level of like, yeah, we understand that this part sucks and we're getting rid of it because it sucks. And that's always good to see. We love the new player experience being like just the better parts of the game and removing the parts that are like, why does this exist? Did you just remember that this existed on a whim? Is that why you had people craft a Spectre? A mechanic no one uses for the most part? Yeah, on the next Acolyte, I'm just going to, like, raw dog use the 3, because it should probably be the exact same effectiveness. Well, I say raw dog, but I mean with roar, I suppose. Also, turns out, who knew, 250% roar? Pretty good. 250% strength, of course, I mean. Imagine if roar's number was actually 250%. Be absolutely wilding. Especially on the subsumed one. Man, Eximus being immune to Revenant's 1 really is some hot bullshit. Well, until, of course, you remove their overguard. That's functionally immunity, though, in pretty much all cases that matter. Hey, here's our boy. Right at 10 minutes. Okay, we split the difference on like when they would show up.
Hold out as long as you can.
First one seemed like it was kind of late. This one's like about what you'd expect with the late first one. Actually, it's probably a little early considering the late first one. All right, let's see if we get that same damage. Yeah, pretty much. I mean, it's better than like a lot of what you might be doing, but it's also like a huge pain in the ass to do, right? Five out of 10. It's okay.
Critical life support levels. Extraction is your best option.
You're right. Extraction is my best option. I'm Revenant. All right, well. That's Revenant. He sure does do a survive, but he doesn't really have any actual advantages because the percentage damage is just not convenient enough to do in order to really be relevant. There's your TLDR. Hey, at least his deluxe skin looks absolutely banging though, right?